it's Dr. Jen with Aging Advantage. Today, we are going to have Kela Woods do the second part of her presentation for us regarding caregivers and how to help support the people that we're caring for, whether they be, someone that has physical, mental, issues with actually like senior aging issues, or somebody that maybe just has disabilities as well. But a lot of times, these people that we are caring for can feel like they're becoming a burden on us as their caregivers. But interestingly enough, sometimes, with technology and all kinds of different just life aspects as well, sometimes us as the caregivers can almost feel like a burden sometimes, how we're trying to insert ourselves or create all these new different, again, technology process systems, etc., for the people that we're caring for. And the burden can kind of be a vice versa situation. So anyhow, Keela's going to just educate you guys on that a little bit more today, which I love. And just excited for you guys to be able to learn from her. So anyway, we just appreciate you joining us, and sit back, relax, and I hope you guys can, continue learning from her. She just has such a wealth of knowledge, and and we just appreciate her for being on so much. Well, and I know, like, even for my dad, for example, because obviously, like, all of our parents are aging, right? But like my dad, he gets so highly, just himself, like he gets so highly overwhelmed by just the amount of appointments and the amount of all these doctor's appointments, and I gotta do this test and I gotta go get this
Yep.
blood work, and I, you know what I mean, just himself doing that. But then also when and I guess this would be a good question too, Keela. Like, but then when you have to insert, he's got all these appointments, right? But then you insert all these different caregiver, all these different people coming in to, let me help with the laundry, let me help with your grocery shopping, let me
Your
take you to this
world, your
appointment.
circle.
Now his brother's taking him to this appointment,
Hmm.
how, like, yeah, how do you help manage that kind of, I guess, overwhelm, especially, when you have multiple people trying to
Yeah,
insert themselves as a
absolutely.
team? How's
The
that work?
way the way I like to approach therapy is strength based, right? So I allow a client to get all of that out, right? When they start talking about their weaknesses. But then I start pointing at all the things they're great at. Like you finish that word search in 6 minutes, it would have taken me all day. Just, being strength based, when we look at all of our abilities, all of the things that we're not able to do, we can be grateful for those things. And I know it sounds so cliche, but it's having that mindset of gratitude and talking to them about the things that they are doing good and that they are still capable of doing.
Yep. I love that. Yeah, I love that. The other thing too, because we've all heard like gratitude journal, right? And
Hmm.
just recently, I was listening to a really cool podcast, and they were actually talking about having a success journal. And I was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, I had never heard of that. And I'm like, what a cool thing. And even just like for some of these people, even just from like a
Mhm.
legacy perspective, like how cool would that be to have had your like grandma, whatever, have like a success journal that, every couple of days, every whatever, she could write something down, whether it's a
Yeah.
simple small thing, she sang at church or whatever it was, didn't matter. But a little small thing, even, just to re-remind themselves, like, okay, I am doing some good things. But I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Or that I've left this huge imprint, right? So
Yeah.
all of the things that I have, I probably can't bake that pound cake, but I left that bad recipe and my daughter, she got it down packed. I've left this legacy and reminding them of the legacy that they left because a lot, especially women and well, no, men and women, our worth is usually in our either our work or our family, right? So we attach
Mhm.
so much of our purpose and our worth to those things. And when we're not currently doing it, we have to be reminded of the legacy and the impact. And sometimes that's why I remind family members when grandma tells that same story 30 times, act like it's your first time hearing it. That's her legacy and her
That's
impact,
good.
right?
Yeah,
Be-
that's
because
right.
because today she may not be able to get up and dance like she could in that story, or to come save the day when you were outside and you fell. But when she tells that story, that's that purpose and her worth, and she's reminding herself of that.
Mhm. That's
Yeah,
so
that's
beautiful.
good.
I
Mhm.
didn't even think about that, like with the recipes. Like that's cool. So I guess, well, and that I guess would be another good question too, is like as a caregiver or people, like around, right, trying to support, are there things that we can, I guess, like help the person we're caregiving for to like pivot on like that are like positive experiences to help them like focus on to kind of like boost, I don't want to say like their self-esteem or their pride in other areas to
Mhm.
kind of help balance that out. But yeah, like the recipe stuff, like that'd be cool. But yeah, for men,
Yeah.
I guess, or for women, like what would be good examples of
Yeah. And so when you start to hear things that sound like negative self-talk, when elderly or disabled friends and family members and they become hard on themselves, then I think reminding them of their value in your life is important, right? You helped me get this far, so I'm helping you, right? We're just trading spaces. I remember before my late grandmother passed away, I would tell her that all the time because she would apologize about so many things, about needing things, and I would tell her, you know, without you babysitting my son, I wouldn't have a master's degree, right? I wouldn't have that. That free childcare went a long way because I
Yes.
couldn't afford it. So just reminding them of the value that they had in your life, especially when you hear negative self-talk, and reversing it, reframing thoughts, helping them to reframe the thoughts because sometimes when you have aches and you're feeling lonely and you have all these appointments and you're taking all of these medications, you don't have a whole lot of hope. And so sometimes instilling that hope, putting it back into place is our jobs as family members and caregivers as well.
Yeah, it's real. It is
Mm-hmm.
absolutely true. Um, Gosh, it's just so much that, when we're talking and things like that, you can just think of different situations and circumstances that come into play.
And I know
Wow.
as a therapist, sometimes my office is probably the highlight of some of my clients' week, right? They
that?
get
Mm,
to they get to get out, they get to put on some clothes and they get to come and sit and have a conversation. And so it's my job to make them comfortable and welcome. It's my job. There go my girl. I've been waiting on you all week, just to let them
mm.
know that they are important to me, that this
Yes,
isn't this isn't about finances or payment. It there is a relationship being built.
right. Yeah, that's true. Because a lot of times when they feel wanted and welcomed, that that goes a long way. That goes a long
Mm-hmm.
way. Yeah. I know
Mm-hmm.
at one of my centers I go to, a senior apartment complex. I go there and visit quite a few of them, and they look forward if they haven't seen me. It'd be a week. They have not seen me or heard from me. They're calling me. I just trying to check on you. When you gonna be back around, or where you at, or just making sure you okay. And it was so funny because the storm that we was expecting the other day, we really didn't know the damage, but it was almost. I had somebody call me first thing yesterday morning and said, "Yeah, I guess we dodged the bullet." We didn't have a storm. It's almost a whole year. That's when I met you. I realized I met you almost a year now. And, then the conversation just went on and just, and I had to just sit there and of course, allow him to talk. And yeah, so when you coming back over this way? And, yeah, we miss you. And then after that, a couple hours later, another person from the same building called me and was like, I miss you. I just need a hug. I want a hug, I miss my girl. I want a hug. And I'm just like, oh, you're so sweet. Yeah. But just little things like that, just to help people get through their day and moments, not always is it that they need a physical need, like you say, that mental need or encouragement, it goes a long way just to let them know that somebody is thinking about them, somebody cares about them, somebody, you're not taking up my time like you think that you're taking up somebody's time. And, because a lot of time they'll tell me that I started to call you, I wanted to call you, or I'm not going to keep you long. I know you're working. I just wanted to call and say hi, see how your
Mhm.
day is going. I'm like, oh, I'm good. Do you need anything? Do I need anything like what? I'm like,
Ye-
do you need anything? I just want to make sure you're okay too. Oh, well, now I talk to you, I'm doing fine. So
Mhm.
I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
that's so sweet, but thank you. And, so it just helps me even to enjoy who I am, what I do for people. That's even for us, as the um caregivers or the nurses and the therapists, the people that's giving the care to
Mhm.
others, to me at least, and you guys could probably agree as well, it helps us to know that even though they may think that I don't want to put too much of a burden on somebody else. I don't want anybody to feel like I'm feeling. So I don't want to take up too much of your time so that you can continue with your day and you can continue with whatever's going on in your life.
Mhm.
So I'm going to refrain myself, but I think I'm trying to say two things in one. So I may be talking too much. Because I think I'm about to go somewhere else, and I wasn't even going to go this down this lane. But um, it's just to me try to stay focused. To me, it just encourages me though to know that somebody else out there is caring, and it helps me to know that what I'm doing it is a positive impact for people in their lives. Because when they do call, even though it may be a short conversation, and just say, "Well, I'm thinking about you," that helps me to know, to me anyway. Okay, then maybe they're not going through this isolation, or they're trying to get out of it because they are reaching out,
Yes.
and it
Yes.
helps
That's
a
a
great
great
deal.
point. That's a great
Yeah,
point, Donna. It does make you reevaluate as a provider how you, your tone, your tact, your
yes,
patience, your delivery.
yes,
It make
yes,
if they're already dealing with these thoughts of feeling burdened and isolated, then how I show up is super important.
yep, means a great deal. Isn't that something? Most
Mm-hmm.
definitely means a
Mm-hmm.
great deal. Yes, to
Mm-hmm.
many. And it's something, especially I think more so our elderly, because I know a lot of times, we deal with caregivers, their family members, and the person who's being cared for. But to me, I don't know, Keela, what do you think? To me, though, I think the biggest impact of that isolation comes from the person who's receiving, on the receiving end, more so the person that's the giving. Sometimes people can give, and wear themselves out. But to
Mm-hmm.
me, it just seems like I find more people who's the recipient, they are the ones who's being most affected by the isolation, or by the burdensome feeling, or um, just a, I guess, a negative connotation that we as the caregivers, we see it as, but they don't, really receive it or see it as being that at that moment, because they just know how they
Yes.
feel, the way
They know how
they
they
feel.
feel. They know how
That's
they
it.
feel.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I no, I agree totally. They know how they feel. They know how being the person in need makes them feel. And so
Yes.
what it looks like and it feels like they're an inconvenience. And
Yes.
oftentimes they're not. You're right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so, us as caregivers, I try to always stress and make sure, a goal of mine, um, whether it's a short talk, long talk, whatever, I have to watch myself sometimes, because I can be a fast talker if my mind has a lot
Mm-hmm.
of things that I'm supposed to accomplish that
Mm-hmm.
day or within a certain window. I'll talk fast. And sometimes, dealing with somebody that's hard of hearing, or, just not with it as they used to be,
Yes.
um, they'll feel like you're rushing them. And then if they
Mm-hmm.
feel like you're rushing them, they're not being patient, they won't really open up to you. They'll stay reserved, or they would even just try to cut conversation. And they actually may have a need, but because you were
Yeah.
rushing or talking fast, um, they'll think that you don't want to be bothered, or you're just trying to hurry up and get it
Yes.
done and move on. And so I have to sometimes be very cautious of things like that, even. And it's so funny because I hate my voice. That's my thing. It's not that I'm trying to rush you, it's just that sometimes I don't, especially if it's early in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I have a lot of more bass
Yeah. You
in
just
my
trying to,
voice.
yes, yes.
So I'm
And,
like,
and sometimes it's not, I guess this would have been good to put on the slide, depersonalizing things, right?
mm,
When your family member may be a little short or your caregiver may be a little short, instead of taking that personal, it could be outside factors. It could be the pressures of the job. It could be that the school said that granddaughter got sick, and I'm in the car, I'm left work early and I'm doing these other things, but it feels so personal when you pick up the
yeah,
phone and you
yeah,
need me at that moment and I'm in a hurry. And so working on
yes,
depersonalizing things, like that was a moment, that was not the relationship as a whole. It was just one moment.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Wow. Yeah, and that one moment can, change. It can be, have a large impact, because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times too, with that one incident, people will take that one incident and think that that's all the time,
All the time. Or how
or
you feel about them. Yes. Mm-hmm.
and it's not even that. So yeah, we have to be so careful on how we show up for people when you're showing up, just try to be mindful, and that's one of my biggest things anyway. I'm saying this because I'm just, sometimes I have to, be a constant reminder to myself, don't allow what's going on in my life or my day, I
To
try
roll
not
over.
to.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. Because the people can tell in your tone and your, um, body language, when they're a burden, or feel like you really don't want to be bothered with them, and so you
Mm-hmm.
just got to be careful that that's not what we're trying to convey to them at all. At least, most of the time I'm not trying to convey that. I'm never trying to convey that you a problem. May actually be an outside influence. And a lot of times it may be because I have such a heavy load today. I wasn't expecting somebody to call me, and I have 5 minutes before I need to call somebody else back,
Somebody else. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Yes.
you have a load of things that you want to discuss, and
Mm-hmm.
you're so into your conversation that I can't get like a little moment in just to say, can you give me like 10 minutes to
Mm-hmm.
call you back?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because when you say that to a person and they're on a roll, sometimes that'll even make them feel like, oh, You're just trying to get off the phone.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
you really don't want to be bothered. Oh,
And I'm
not
glad that
important enough.
I'm glad you brought that up because in the slides when I talked about reframing the thoughts and I could just like if I could say anything about this topic of feeling burdensome, that our minds are so powerful. And once we tell ourselves a story, that story becomes true. Once I
Yeah.
tell myself that I'm a burden or that I'm an inconvenience or that you don't care, that becomes the absolute truth in my mind. And that's how I function and operate in our relationship. And it's subconscious, right? It's I've told
Yes.
myself that story, so now it's true. So now subconsciously I'm calling less. Now I'm not telling so many stories. I'm not telling you about my day. So be careful with this narrative that you are a burden because maybe there was a moment that was inconvenient, but that is not all the time.
Yeah, that's true right there. And that one incident, that one time, yep, it'll just become life. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
true at all. Yep,
It's,
that's not true at all.
mm-hmm.
There's something else because you're dealing with so many different people. You're dealing with different attitudes, you're dealing with different backgrounds, different just ways of life. Um, yeah, and it's important that we just take out that moment just to, reframe and retrace some stuff, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And
One of
so, oh,
Oh,
go
you're
ahead,
good. One of
Jen.
the questions, Keela, just to piggyback off of what Donna said, because this like ties right into it. One of the questions that somebody asked was, do you see people that have like physical disabilities, in physical or I guess like mental, actual disabilities that maybe they've had like their whole life, that's continued to actually progress versus somebody who's just going through a normal aging process, right? Do you
Absolutely.
see though, like, or how do those two people handle or view like being burdened? Because again, like, and I was like, also like, I hadn't really thought about this, but people who were like born, with, I'm just going to throw this out there, like cerebral palsy, for example, or
Hmm.
something like that, right? Where they've always had, to be kind of caregiven for, but then still again, their body is going to continue even to go through the normal aging process yet,
Hmm. Hmm.
versus someone who's been a lot more independent their whole life. And then now, all of a sudden, like, okay, now they, are having to hand that over more to a caregiver. Like, is that process different for both of those kind of populations? And I wouldn't have thought about
Yeah, honestly, I don't have any data or any facts, but if I can
that. Yeah.
think from the population that I work with, I think that they have adjusted to their strengths versus their weaknesses and their support system. They have built community around these things. Like they are experts at navigating this, right? They're in survivors of cerebral palsy Facebook groups. They have become experts of themselves. And what happens, the difference is, as we're talking about aging and development and abrupt disabilities, you don't feel like an expert of self. You actually feel a little more lost and confused, and that's why it feels more burdensome.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because yeah, and I wouldn't have thought about that. And then I guess also too, along with that, even yeah, like somebody who I guess mentally also, how people start getting the dementia or the Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
How do
Mm-hmm.
you, how as a caregiver, do you handle that? Because like Donna was talking about earlier, the scenario of the parent that, like, okay, maybe we need to like take the keys, because they get lost or whatever. How do you, I don't know, like, how do you mitigate that as a caregiver? Because again, like sometimes there are like, okay, yeah, I don't want to be, burdensome because I don't want to ask, can you pick up the eggs?
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
like one thing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you have those conversations? But also, how do you have the conversations like when it's, really important, like when it's like an actual safety issue and boundaries, I guess, with all that. How's that work?
Yeah, so there are some excellent support groups for family members of caregivers of individuals with dementia. You can probably Google search support group for fill in the blank. And so for caregivers, we talked about finding community to help with isolation. For caregivers, finding community, right? Like, oh, I'm not alone. We are all, I'll give an example. I have a 3-year-old who was just diagnosed with autism back in November. The more moms and dads and like, oh, your kid does this. Whew, I felt like I was alone in this. And we were sharing things, we're sharing resources. I'm getting messages. Well, have you heard about this ABA therapy place? Have you heard about this? We are building a community surrounding it. And I don't feel like I'm doing this all by myself. Because in the beginning, I felt like a guessing game. Like, who do I call? Where do I go to? There are also some amazing books for caregivers on dementia. And I'm actually going to look up one because I've heard raving reviews about it. I just have to find it. Um, but that's just an example. The 36-hour day. It's a book about family members caring for Alzheimer's, dementia, memory loss, sundowners, like all of those things. So sometimes, once again, we become more resilient, we become more confident when we educate ourselves and become like experts on our own life. That's what these support groups and communities do for any illness, for survivors of any illness, for any caregiver. Building a community will help you so much. I mean, even I work in mental health, and I learn more from other moms of children with than I do from some of my own caregivers. So
Mm-hmm.
so building that community is huge and important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And then even I guess the one of the things you kind of touched on briefly, which kind of leads to another question that somebody had, was with all the technology we have now, right? I know, right? Again, blessing and a curse sometimes. But for the caregiver, obviously, like Donna was talking about earlier too, like it can help to lessen our load, and our output, everything from being able to have the like pharmacies just deliver the medication to the house, or the Instacarts to be able to deliver the actual like Walmart shopping list right to their front door, things like
Yes.
that. So there's all kinds of different ways that, we can kind of mitigate some of the technology things. But even, and I guess, as a doctor too, like I was just at one of the VAs this morning, and we're setting up a genetic virtual meeting consultation with hematology oncology for a patient
Hmm.
with somebody from Dartmouth. And so, because we have the technology to do that now. We don't have to like go
Absolutely.
all the way there, for the
Uh-huh.
appointment.
Uh-huh.
But again, like I mean, and even like to our generation, some of those things can feel a little like, it was a little overwhelming, especially during COVID when we had to start doing all the virtual meetings and
Yes.
virtual, Zoom stuff, but appointments and things. But we all kind of were in the throes of it already then. We just kind of all got
Mm-hmm.
used to it. But
Mm-hmm.
and obviously the generations younger than us now have only grown up like that. Like, I want bread cone, cool. I'm just going to DoorDash that one second,
Lord,
and
yeah,
ding, it's at the
yeah.
front door. But I didn't even think about that until this question, because for the older population, though, like to your point, like they didn't grow up that way. Even
Mm.
texting or even holding a calendar schedule, like, like my dad, when, we schedule his doctor's appointments, I put it in my phone. And then I just
Yeah.
add him as a, invitee, and I send him a
Yes.
little thing, and then he, can reply and accept or decline, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
again, we're used to that technology, and older people
Yes.
are used to carrying around, the planner.
A
So I
planner.
guess, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
can you speak to like, I guess like different, those a lot of examples, but yeah, any other kind of examples like that? And again, but like for us, from a respect standpoint, like we love it, makes our life easier, but we're used to that, but
Yeah.
they're not. And so I feel like, the burden then sometimes can like flip flop, maybe reverse, because we're like stressing them out potentially with all this new fancy pantsy technology stuff that they just
Yeah.
don't even have the capacity for. So can you speak to that a little bit? Because I'm like, that was
Yeah.
a dynamic I wouldn't have thought about until this
Wouldn't
question.
have thought about.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How's that work?
Absolutely. Even if I think about my own practice, I have a completely digital electronic health record system, right?
Yeah.
And so I send you an invite to the portal, you upload your
Yeah.
insurance, you answer all the questions. If we do a video session, you click a link all through this one app. And I when I first started my practice, I'm moving until I get that one client who just cannot figure it out. And
Hmm.
I have to take a moment and be that support for them if they don't have that support, right? To kind of help them navigate that electronic health record system, or even say, hey, maybe we should meet in person the first one or two
Mm.
sessions and kind of navigate this and to help them feel comfortable. Then we can translate. I can show you how to use the video platform, things like that. So yeah, we do have to be patient when it comes to all of the. If you think about talking to your doctor these days, what you got to do? Send a message through my chart.
Yeah. Or
You
if you have a
get.
question or any, it's so crazy. And again, like for us, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of magical. Cause like for my dad yesterday, I fired off a message to his primary care about some blood
Mm-hmm.
work thing. Hey, did you see these blood work results? Can you let me know what we need to do next? Fired off
Mm-hmm.
one to him, fired off one to the pulmonologist. And they've already
Mm-hmm.
responded back by like 9:30 a.m. this morning. I'm like, this is amazing. But again, for older people, like that can be for seniors, that can be absolutely like overwhelming.
And it actually can cause a feeling of more isolation, right? If you
Hmm.
think about if I call my daughter and I need milk, bread, eggs, and cheese, she sends it to Walmart. Walmart drops it off at the door, and I was kind of looking forward to maybe seeing her,
Yeah.
when she, yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
And the other thing too that I find, that I find highly fascinating from a sociology experiment standpoint, as again, like taking the parents out, or taking my dad out, to the store and whatever. It's funny because like you just talked about that socialization aspect, right? Um,
absolutely.
Not only like the him wanting to maybe connect with me or see me, but also him like he just loves to talk to everybody in the produce department. And the other day, like good grief, we were at Costco, I think, and he's over there, with the pineapple pulling the tops off, and if it comes out easy, like that's a good one, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And this lady comes up to us like 5 aisles later and was like, "Excuse me, sir. I saw you picking up the pineapple. So, how do I know what's a good one?" And he was like, "Oh yes, let me show you." And I'm like, "Oh boy, here we go."
And there
And
was his value for the day, right? Something he's
yes,
good at, his strength base, and it probably made him feel amazing.
yeah, I mean, he just like being like from the inside. And I was like, "What is
Mm-hmm.
happening right now?" But again, like to your point, like that's a whole like social them getting out, coming to you, going to the store, heck, them needing to get ready to go to all these doctor's appointments and stuff, like,
Mm-hmm.
and talking to the person sitting on the bench next to them while they're waiting to go back, like that's a whole social part of their life that again we're just like, I've already had 733 people that I've already talked or texted with today, like
Exactly.
I don't really need
Exactly.
another one. But for them, I guess, yeah, when they get isolated, like
Mm-hmm.
they need to get out and do some of that
Mm-hmm.
socialization stuff. So again,
They
we're
really
we're
do.
thinking this is going to be easier, but for them, we're like sometimes like, yeah, taking stuff away.
taking
which
it
is amazing.
away. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
being mindful and back to the all or none. Maybe don't always send the groceries.
Hmm.
Once or twice a month, take that trip and a ride and especially if it's something that they are capable and willing to do.
Hmm.
Yeah, go and make that connection.
Hmm. That is awesome. Well, thank you, Miss Keela. That was fantastic. Yeah, I was like, we don't have any more questions at the moment,
Okay.
Really
but
was. I
we will,
really enjoyed this. That was
yeah,
great.
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're very
And thank you,
welcome.
ladies, for the opportunity.
Yes, anytime, anytime. That's just great. Appreciate your patience with us and just willingness to answer any questions and concerns that we or others may have. And I'm pretty sure that lots of people will be able to benefit from this session today.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
You are welcome.
And
Till
for our
next
viewers,
time.
yeah, if anybody has any questions, definitely please reach out and, we will, also provide Keela's information. So you guys can, continue to receive support from her if y'all would like. So thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Everybody have a great day. Bye bye.
Bye bye.